Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. This week we have Pete Wargo from Modern Wealth Management. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to the Michigan State Wealth Management Association podcast. I'm Garrett Disrath, and today I'm here with Pete Wargo from Modern Wealth Management. And then, Pete, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and we can then just jump into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Garrett. Like you said, my name is Pete Wargo. I am a senior financial advisor here at Modern Wealth Management. I'm a certified financial planner, and I have my AIF accredited investment fiduciary designation. So that's the basics about me.
Awesome. So the first question to really kick it off here is, what drew you into wealth management?
I'd say happenstance. When I graduated high school and kind of started my college career, I was a biology major. I didn't have any indication or notion that I was going to get into this space, but I got a letter, I think it was after my first semester, my freshman year, and I had been accepted into the Seidman College of Business at Grand Valley. And I didn't apply, I guess, just based on GPA or something, but I was like, that's interesting. I never really thought about it. So kind of looked into it a little bit more and thought, yeah, maybe I'll go to be an accountant. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I started doing some business classes. And I was home one summer and my dad had asked me, hey, what are you doing for the rest of your life? And I said, maybe accounting. He said, well, our good friend and, a guy who went to our church, Ken Osawala, he owns a wealth management practice. We're good personal friends. Maybe you would want to intern for him for the summer and just see how it goes. And I said, sure. So I kind of got myself into an internship. I was Ken Oswald's first ever intern. And I guess the rest is history, because as soon as I graduated, I actually contacted Ken, let him know I was graduating and they were hiring. So it just kind of worked out perfectly. Got a job and I've been here 11 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Ken's a great guy. He put us into contact, and I've
Yep.
really learned a lot from him over the years.
As have I. I consider him a mentor.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Pete, I know you work with a bunch of different clients. What keeps you motivated and or surprised by the different clients you see?
Sure. I think it's important that if you plan on getting into this line of work, financial planning and trying to advise people, there's certain things that they hold near and dear to their heart. Their health, their relationships, their family members, and their money. And when you serve in this role, you kind of take an important role in their lives. So I always knew I wanted to do something to help people. And it just turns out that I help them with their finances. So I think what keeps me motivated is knowing that I'm helping them, that what I'm doing is meaningful in their lives. And it's even greater. It's even greater when they let you know that and they say, you've done a lot for me and for my family over the years, and it's very much appreciated. So that really helps with the motivation is knowing the trust that they place in you. When it comes to kind of surprises, you meet with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different walks of life. So just hearing, how they got to where they're at today, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because you talk to some people who aren't in a great position. And it's just interesting hearing their different stories and, different parts about their lives. This is the best thing I've done in my life. This is the worst. And just learning from them. I mean, even personally, helping with my relationships, my marriage, my, becoming a father, you learn a lot from them. So you're surprised by how much you learn from your clients, and they always think that they're learning from you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really what drew me into wealth management was the notion of helping people and making a change in the community. I feel like that's definitely one of the biggest impacts you can make. And, financially, that's probably the biggest, burden in everyone's life. So that's amazing
Yeah.
to hear.
Well, I hope when you ask people that question, they don't just say, for the money. So
Yep,
at the end of the day, we're here to help people.
absolutely. And then wealth management has a great importance on the soft skills and communication of the advisor. How do you develop this over time and continue to improve this when working with people?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is really just experience and practice. My first 2 years working here, kind of under Ken Osawala, spent a lot of time in meetings with him, how he interacted with clients, and just learning how he did it. And I kind of, adopted some of that and tweaked it to myself. So I think just that experience of, being in the meetings and learning kind of went a long way. And I think it's important too. I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I consider Ken a mentor of mine. I think it's important to find that, especially early in your career, someone that is not just going to, praise you for all the good that you do, but really, hone in on and say, this is something you could work on. You could say this a little bit differently, or, maybe you shouldn't have went that direction. And even asking for that criticism, right? Saying, hey, I want to get better. Is there anything I can do to improve that? So we do some sales training here. So, if you work for a company that offers it, fantastic. If not, there's a lot of resources online. You could YouTube, certain things and find a lot of information. Just always thinking about it. I think, one of our things here in our office here in Troy, Michigan, is how do we become, 1/10 of 1% better at everything we do, whether that's interactions with clients or even on the personal side of things, your personal lives. I never want to stop improving.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like I take that same idea with me in school, and every day I'm trying to learn something new, and whether it be in my classes related to finance or not, just improve my knowledge throughout the week.
It's important. Never stop learning.
And then we're going to jump into some technical questions here. So
Sure.
we saw a massive drop in the stock market back in April with the announcements of tariffs, and we are kind of continuing to see that with the news about Greenland and then different tariffs going to Europe. How do you navigate these challenges with the client when they see the stock market drop it and they might get um wary of what's happening with the future?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it's important to realize market volatility, it's always been there and it's always going to be here. Uncertainty is just that. I don't know what's going to happen next week or next month or next year. But the most I can do is be informed myself. So that's, reading your Wall Street Journal, keeping up on current events, and then really being an educator, right? I mean, my part of my job, at least, is to educate the clients on what's going on, how it's affecting them, how it might affect, their long-term goals, and should we make any changes? So keeping them educated, keeping myself educated, and really putting things in perspective for them is probably the best way to navigate it. It's also important to know, we are financial planners. That's what the CFP designation is. I don't have to explain it to you. It's a certified financial planner. I'm a planner first. So if we put a plan in place, a lot of times it's just reminding them, this is what the plan said. The plan, had in it that there will be some volatility and still says you're going to be okay. So it's going back to the plan and making sure that that's still, up to their standards, and always, going back to it and saying, I lost my train of thought there. Really going back to the plan and saying, are your goals still getting met? And do you have any questions? Because we can make this thing work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I know in my classes we talk about diversifying the portfolio. So when the market does, drop a little bit, you don't see a massive loss. That might
Right.
take a year to recover. So that's amazing to hear.
Right. But you planned for it, so it's okay.
Absolutely. And then I know with our younger generations here, we've seen a kind of a change in investment strategies, especially with alternative investing such as cryptocurrencies. I know gold and silver have been rising in price. How do you navigate that with your clients compared to your traditional mutual funds?
Sure. Well, I think the world of mutual funds is kind of slimming down and eventually coming to a close because you can do, very similar things with a low cost ETF. And that's kind of what's changed in the industry altogether or in the marketplace is it used to be where if you wanted to own crypto, if you wanted to buy some Bitcoin, you had to go open a wallet and do all this crazy stuff. Now it's really as simple as opening up an account at, a deep discount brokerage firm and finding an ETF that fits your needs. So the availability and the options behind it have changed a lot and made it a lot easier. I mean, you mentioned silver and gold, precious metals, same thing. If I wanted to own gold and silver back in the day, I had to go, some shady pawn shop and buy it from somebody. Now I can just buy, silver and gold ETFs and kind of have some exposure to that space. So just the availability of it has made it a lot easier for us to say, if that's an avenue we want to, dig into a little bit, we can look into it for you. And it's interesting you say for some of the younger clients, because at least in the last year or so, it hasn't been as much of the younger generation asking us. It's been the older generation, them saying, hey, looks like the younger people are doing this. My grandchild is telling me, I gotta put this in my portfolio. What can we do? And teach me. I need to learn about it first.
Yeah, that's surprising to hear, to be honest. I know my grandpa and I are heavily in the stock market, and he hates all kind of alternative investing.
Yeah.
Um, Have you
They don't
seen?
like what they don't understand is the thing. So if they don't understand it, they're never going to want to invest in it. If they can go to Walmart, they know they can own Walmart stock and they can own a piece of Walmart. It's harder to explain, but if you find a way to do it and help them understand it, they're going to be a lot more open to investing in it. If that's something that they want. If not, there's other options too.
Absolutely. And then to kind of build off that, do you see a future with cryptocurrencies? And I know we have the rise of AI right now, which is going to be a huge boom, has been a huge boom. Where do you
Yeah.
see that going in the future?
I mean, I think I'm a lot more excited about, kind of where AI is going than maybe just cryptocurrencies. I think it has a place. I heard somebody say one time that, there's been a few really, really big innovations in the history of the world. You've got fire, you've got the wheel, you've got internet, and then you've got Bitcoin. I don't necessarily know that that's true. And even if you want to substitute Bitcoin for cryptocurrency, but AI, I can get on that bandwagon. I mean, I've seen some innovations and even just looking at the chat box that are available, Chat GPT and all the other ones that are out there. But what it can do for my industry, for healthcare, I think that those possibilities are pretty endless.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that within our club as well. We went to Chicago on the road show, which was a great experience. And a lot of the firms like JPM talked about expanding their AI market. Have you guys seen that in Modern Wealth?
We have, and at least at this point, it's kind of been, the dull kind of meaningless tasks that we have to do from day to day, trying to incorporate AI to just be more efficient and save us some time. But just like everything else, I think as time goes on and more becomes available, we'll adopt even more.
Yeah, I can fully get on board with that. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. Well, it's
And
it's nice
then,
when you don't have to do some of those kind of mundane, activities anymore.
yep, has it kind of taken over like the note-taking aspect in meetings?
Yeah, I mean, meeting preparation, meeting notes. I mean, when I first started, like I said, I sat in meetings with Ken a lot in my first 2 years. I was the AI note taker, right? I mean, that was me typing in, or even writing down and then going back and typing in, and a lot's changed since then. So the AI note takers, it saves a ton of time.
hmm And then leading the next question, I know we talked a little bit about this. How do you manage the issue of risk with your clients? And then talking about long-term retirement savings compared to quick returns on money.
Yeah, so I think, and some of that I think goes into the kind of crypto and those kind of alternative investments. It's not about the get rich quick schemes. This is a long-term play. We're living long lives, and healthcare is getting even better. So hopefully we're living even longer lives. But I believe in diversification. Look at the time horizon of the client, look at what their goals are, and then look how we can help them, reach those goals, which also goes back to the financial plan. If you have a comprehensive, well-built financial plan put together for you, and these are the 5 or 6 steps we need to get there, whether that's, looking for a new job because yours isn't paying what it's paying, whether it's, adding more to your retirement savings. What that's all of those inputs, if they're put in properly, the outputs will tell you kind of the direction we need to go.
hmm Yeah, you mentioned talking about looking for a new job if it's not paying for enough. And I've never thought about that with wealth management before. Usually I just think purely investing the money.
Yeah.
Making those or helping people make those big decisions in life. How has that kind of changed your view?
Yeah, so when I thought of a financial advisor before I was in this industry, I thought it was, this stock, this bond, or this mutual fund, that mutual fund. Why would you want this one over that one? That's, I think people don't realize that that's not what I do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's a CFA, a chartered financial analyst, which we employ here at Modern Wealth. We have a team of them. They do a lot of that research and portfolio building. And we do have, investment committees where I get to learn about it. And, I need to know what my clients are investing in on the portfolios that they're going into. But at the end of the day, most of my job is spent meeting with clients or prospects and building their plans for them. That's the CFP behind my name, planner.
Mhm.
So it's not as much about the products and the actual investments themselves as it is, their goals and their financial plan.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And then going forward,
Which that I gotta say, that's the fun part, right? I'm
yeah.
not sitting in a dark room in a corner, crunching on a computer all day. I've got people sitting across from me that I get to, talk to and hear their life dreams and figure out how we get to reach them.
hmm Have any of those clients kind of changed your own perspective on life?
I think 100%. Yeah. I mean, one, I started when I was, 11 years ago. So I was 22 years old. I was in a different place in life. And then you start meeting with clients that are in their 50s, 60s. They've been past this before. They've done this already. Maybe it was a little different for them, but, I try to learn as much as I can from their experiences. And nowadays, yes, of course, I work with those clients that are retired and, maybe they've made it or they're halfway there. But I'm also meeting with people who are my age, and maybe we're going through the same things at the same time. I just had my first child. My wife and I, she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy back in August. Well, now I'm not just talking about, college savings for clients. I got to do it myself, right? So just learning how people have done it along the way and hearing their successes and their failures, I think that's made me a better advisor.
Yeah, so going into our next question, it was about you becoming a father recently, and
Okay.
congratulations. That's amazing to hear.
Thank you.
How is
Thank you very much.
how has this really changed your life impact and made you a better advisor?
Well, I mean, just having a kid changes your life in all the best ways. But as far as my professional role here, I used to talk to clients about legacy planning or the estate planning. I'm going to be gone one day. I want to make sure my spouse and my children are cared for. And I used to think I knew what they were talking about. I used to think, yeah, I get it. I'm a child. I have parents. They want the best for me. But when you bring a kid into the world, it changes everything. It changes your perspective. It changes your goals. I mean, I catch myself thinking about, what's it look like in the future? Are we going to send him to public school or private school? What sports might he want to play if he does want to play some sports? And what hand am I going to play in that? So it's like I find myself dreaming of the future, and getting really excited about it more than I ever have. And also, I can lean on clients and say, hey, my son's only 4 months old now, so nothing bad has happened. But when he's 5 or 10 or 20, I can talk to some clients and say, well, you had kids at that age at that at some point in life. What'd you do in this situation? So I think I can really lean on learning from my clients, and taking some advice that they have. So I said it before and I'll say it again. I think I end up learning as much from my clients as they do from me.
Hmm. That's something I'm also very excited for. I feel like I love hearing different perspectives on people's lives. So meeting with clients and sitting down and really absorbing everything they have to offer as well as you do, that like that can't be understated in my opinion.
Yeah, well, when you have your first, Garrett, we'll talk. I'm happy to shed my fatherly wisdom.
Yeah, I'll appreciate it. So then we were talking about the future, but I want to go in the past a little bit here. So
Sure.
you said you were the first intern for Ken.
I
What
was.
made
I was.
Yep, what made you stand out as an intern, and what do you think the new generation can do to land more job opportunities?
That's a really good question. One, I think we have to realize it was very different back then. When I was going to school at Grand Valley and I made the decision that this is the industry I wanted to be in, at the time there wasn't even a financial planning, curriculum back then. There wasn't I couldn't declare a major for financial planning. I was a finance major, and that was definitely more on the corporate side. So when I started, interning for Ken, I guess I didn't know what to expect, and maybe it didn't really live up to the expectations I thought I'd be, sitting in more meetings. But it was just, hey, I need copies made of something. Go grab coffee. I mean, when I was an intern, it was the true, when people think of being an intern, it truly was that. But it's different now. We actually just hired on a recent graduate. And he was an intern for us, and he was sitting in meetings. He was helping us prepare. He was learning how to do some prep work. He was doing some analysis for us. I think the biggest thing on how somebody can stand out, though, whether it was me doing those really terrible intern activities back in the day or being a lot more involved now, is just the willingness to do it. I don't necessarily want an intern that knows everything. I want an intern that wants to know everything, and they're willing to go the extra mile, and they're willing to grind and put in the work. I want you to want to be here. So I think a lot of that is personality. Showing your employer, whoever you're interning for, that you're willing to go the extra mile, makes a lot of difference, right? They want to hire you. Probably that's why you're an intern there. Make them need to hire you. Make yourself invaluable to them.
Mm, yeah, that's a great perspective on it. And then especially with the grind mindset, I know most people that end up leaving wealth management, it happens within the first 5 years of being there.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the hardest time, getting your CFP. So being able to make it through that grind and then really start compounding on what is something I look forward to.
Yeah. And I think it's important too. I'm happy to work for Modern Wealth, a large independent RIA, registered investment advisory firm. If you work for somebody who, let me put it this way, when I was graduating and I got job offers for a couple different places other than, it was called Oswald Financial Group back then, now we're Modern Wealth Management. But the other places that I was interning for or trying to get a job for, they were asking me, to provide lists of, my closest 150 friends and family. They want their names, addresses, phone numbers, and that was going to be my job, was to call them and maybe try to sell them a product, some life insurance or something. And I won't name any names, but be really careful who you're trying to get in with. Not to say that you can't succeed there, but friends of mine from school who kind of worked for some of those kind of plug and play bigger outfits, I can tell you they're not still in the industry. Maybe they switched over to real estate or something else. Find yourself a good independent financial planning first firm, that gets paid by fees and not by commissions, and then at least you're ahead of the ball because you're where you're supposed to be. You just got to earn your spot.
Yep. I know a lot of friends that had internships, and yeah, we won't name them, but some of those places where you're selling insurance and you're making only commission, and that's definitely, especially the listeners of the podcast, we have different aspirations than that. So
Yeah.
I feel like especially having that title of fiduciary is something everyone holds a lot of pride in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then to end it off here, so we're all about learning in Michigan State. What personal growth books or financial books, podcasts do you enjoy reading about or listening to?
Yeah, that's good because that's why people are listening, is to learn, right? I will say, when I first got in the industry, I used to ask everybody, what books can I read? How do I better myself? What should I listen to? The same question you're asking, and it was actually an executive advisor over in our Lenexa, Kansas office. He told me, drink from a fire hose. Take in as much information as you possibly can. So even if I give you a couple books, which I will, don't stop there. I mean, just keep going. Wall Street Journal, you should be reading that pretty regularly, if not every day, every other day. That's the information that I need to keep my clients informed and myself. Some of the books that I really, really appreciated when I first got started was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's Carnegie. That was a really good one. Millionaire Next Door. People think that the people walking in our office, in fancy suits, are the people with probably the most money, and chances are they're not. It's the person who scrimped and saved, and their jeans are, a little bit run down, and maybe they don't drive the nicest car, but man, they have some retirement savings, because that's the way they live their lives. They saved. They didn't live all for today. You got to do a little bit of that, but not too much. You got to live for the future too. Your future self will thank you. So Millionaire Next Door kind of talks about the misconception of who you think millionaires are. Which, by the way, I mean, that's basically what Dave Ramsey preaches, and we are affiliated with Ramsey's as well. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was another good one. Podcast wise, it's not all financial advisor stuff, but the Iced Coffee Hour. Have you ever listened to them?
I have.
Yeah, I find some good episodes there, and I mean, a lot of that is actually more real estate and different markets, but they have really good guests on, so I like to hear from them. And then Compound and Friends, I'm sure you're aware of them as well. That's a really good one. I can't really think of any more. Do you got any for me?
Yeah, have you read The Psychology of Money?
I don't think so. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, it's a great wealth management book. It talks about people's emotions with money, and a lot of it is that psychology behind it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Was one of my favorite books I've ever read.
I've always said that if, and maybe I will end up going back and get my MBA, but if I ever did, behavioral psychology is probably what I'd be most interested in, because that's, when you're sitting across from somebody and they're, telling you what their life goals are and some issues they've been having, you do end up kind of playing a counselor a little bit. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist by any means, but money is pretty near and dear to people's hearts. So I'll put that one down. I got to read that one, Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pete, thank you so much. I know I really appreciate it, and our listeners will as well. And I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. Have a good one.
Of course.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSUWMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSUWMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.